Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing the top 10 most anticipated comics of December. So let's jump into the list. Number 10 for me is Shift issue 1. This is continuing the Radiant Black Massive-Verse storyline. We've seen Shift as a character in a few of the Massive-Verse books, and now we're getting a bigger story with them. And as a Radiant Black fan, as a fan of many of those titles, I just love how innovative Kyle Higgins is with every single title and how connected everything has become, and it's just become its own world, which I really, admire overall. Now, number 9, we have Animal Pound issue 1. This is a Tom King book over at Boom Studios. I'm really curious about this because this is, I believe, is the first Boom Studios book Tom King has ever done. It's really cool to see him doing even more indie titles and still doing so much with DC and Wonder Woman and balancing it all. So, and we've gotten a couple animal books before. We got Stray Dogs. We had the Animal House book. How is that going to compare to this little genre and sector of comics that we've been getting in the last 2 or 3 years that have been popular in the indie scene? Moving on to number 8, which is Time Traveler Tales issue 1. This is with Carl Jacobs, the Twitch creator and YouTuber. The reason I'm excited for this one is because I want to see if this brings more fans to comics. This is a very big creator on Twitch with a very loyal fan base going into comics, telling their own story. I believe they're even like a main character in the story. I'm hoping this really brings people into the store and maybe get into comics as well. Moving on to number 7, which is the original X-Men, issue 1. We've seen this story before. We've definitely seen the return of the original X-Men, but I want to see what it is post Krakoa. What are these characters doing? What does their relationship look like? So, obviously, it's a fun team overall, and that's why we do get to see these characters show up a lot. Moving on to number 6, which is Titans Beast World Tour, Gotham issue 1. I'm interested to see the settings of Beast World. I still don't really know what the full arc is going to be about, but it does seem like they're visiting like Star City and Central City and Gotham. And as a Batman fan, I want to see what Beast World has to do with Gotham. And I also saw Stephanie and Cassandra on the cover, so hopefully they have a big role as well. And we'll see if this is more anthology based or more of a straightforward story. But I'm curious to see how it's going to affect these characters and maybe seeing characters that we don't get to see on a monthly basis all the time. Moving on to number 5, which is Firepower issue 30. This is the last issue of Firepower. I just want to see how it all ends. I was surprised to see it was ending so soon. And I think it's been a pretty solid series overall. Kirkman does a good job at giving you that final punch as we've seen with many of his other series. So I'm curious to see if he'll do the same with Firepower and where these characters are going to go. And if they're going to go anywhere past this series. Moving on to number 4, which is Duke issue 1. This is the continuation of Skybound's Hasbro lineup. We had Transformers with Daniel Warren Johnson, which I've been loving, and that's someone who's not a Transformers fan at all. And I know nothing about G.I. Joe, but I'm a very big Joshua Williamson fan, especially his indie comics. I think he does a really good job at making you care about characters. So if anyone's going to make me care about Duke, whoever Duke is, I think Joshua Williamson's going to do it. Moving on to number 3, which is Sentry issue 1. This has to do with the groundingness of Sentry, a character I also don't know much about, but I like the idea of seeing these normal people become Sentry, who's not the biggest Marvel character, but might be the biggest Marvel character later on because he will become an MCU hero. So this is perfect timing to kind of bring some love to Sentry and maybe reinvent Sentry, who doesn't really show up very often. Moving on to number 2, which is the Amazing Spider-Man issue 39. We're getting the start of the Gang War. This has been a very hyped up arc. As a Spider-Man fan, I want to see what the Gang War is all about. I love grounded stories with Spider-Man. I do like to see some mob stories with Spider-Man as well. What is this all about? How is this going to change Spider-Man forever? We will find out with issue 39. Moving on to number 1, Spider-Gwen, Smash issue 1. Melissa Flores, who's been writing Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I've been loving Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, is writing this book, so I'm very excited on that level. But then also another layer, Spider-Gwen's just showing up again, and I love reading Spider-Gwen. But last but not least, we actually get to see a music-driven story. We're getting to see her on tour, and I feel like we don't get to see that very often. Surprisingly enough, that was such a big part of her character when she was introduced, but we don't really get to see her playing music very often, so I'm curious to see if this series will end up doing that. So I'm very, very excited as a Gwen fan and a fan of all those elements to read that book. Let me know in the comments below what are the books you're most anticipating this month. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.